Ladies and gentlemen, our show will begin in 3, 2, 1. Let's ride.
On stage right now, he stole one of my teacups. He is Cord Redding!
What is up, you sexy sons and daughters of a swear word? How we feeling tonight, huh? I am feeling great. Last week was my birthday. Thank you, random fan. I turned 22 years old, and I know what some of you guys are thinking. Oh, he's only 22? He looks terrible. Yes, I get it. I look like if a mop was in the middle of his midlife crisis. Like if a mop was at the middle of his life and he realized his mortality and just started buying things, but mops can't afford things, so they have to buy all their stuff at Goodwill. That's what I look like. Like I look like if a 35-year-old Jewish man was being possessed by an 80-year-old Jewish man. But like, it was my birthday, and for my birthday I got vaccinated. I got my 3rd dose. Give it up, give it up. Yeah. Give it up for consensual stabbing. It's my favorite kind of stabbing, actually. Much preferred to the alternative. But I had to go back to Minot, North Dakota to get my vaccine because that's where I got my other 2 doses. And fun fact about Minot, they haven't thought this whole pandemic thing was real since it started, so there was no line at the clinic. I walked up and the lady at the front desk was like, you can just go into any of the booths. Like, you can just walk in, you can open the curtain and vibe check the nurse, and if you don't like her, you can just close it and go to the next one. And I chose the first one, the one that was closest to me, just like when choosing a urinal, because albeit minorly, it is less work. So I walk in, right, I pull the curtain to the side and I sit down. And the lady, the nurse, super nice. She's like, you're gonna do fine. You've done this before. You know what you're doing. It's not gonna hurt. You're gonna feel like crap for the next couple days, and then everything's gonna be good. And then she sets the tray with the vaccine on it on the table in front of me and pushes it toward me. Now, a normal person in this situation would think, oh, she's just getting the vaccine ready for when she finishes the paperwork that she has to do, so she can just take it directly from the tray and into my arm. But I, ladies and gentlemen, am no normal man. Because I think to myself, I wonder why she wants me to give myself the vaccine. Okay. So she turns around to do her paperwork and I leap into action, all right? I may have no medical background, but I am moving with the swiftness of a seasoned nurse, all right? I grab that little wet wipe and I wipe down the area of my arm. I grab the vaccine, squirt a little bit out of the top like they do in the movies, and I stab myself. And it is at this moment that the lady turns around and she reacts like I had stabbed someone else. She's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what was gonna happen? Regardless, you're welcome. And she's upset, obviously. But then she takes a little bit of a closer look and she's like, well, you did it right. Don't do it again. And she opens the curtain and gestures for me to leave. And she was upset, understandably. But I will argue that I was her easiest patient of the day. In most of her interactions, she has to do all the work. But with me, she just had to be like, hey, don't, and then shoo me away. All right? Those of you who are vaccinated, which sidebar, get vaccinated. It's a good idea. Do it. But those of you who are vaccinated, you know that there's a little 30-minute waiting area that you have to wait in so that if you have an allergic reaction, the medical staff is just there to take care of it, right? So I go and I walk to the waiting area and I take my seat like a good little boy. and the next dude walks in to get his vaccine. He walks into the same booth that I was in, and presumably he does it correctly. Because I don't hear a loud, "Hey, don't!" from behind the curtain. And he walks out, right? And he starts walking toward the waiting area. He walks directly into my row of seats, the one that I'm sitting in. He walks up to me, looks me in the eyes, and keeps walking out the door and on with his life, apparently. And then I'm just sitting there like a little scared baby boy, afraid to go live his life, because what if I have an allergic reaction? And like, what do you got? Did you schedule a meeting to be the minute after you got the COVID vaccine? Like, what do you have to go? You have to go have sex with my girlfriend? What are you gonna do, huh? What? And I was upset, right? And I wanted to get up and I wanted to go talk to him. I wanted to show him the what for. But I didn't. Because I still had 28 minutes I had to wait in the waiting area. Revenge is sweet. Listening to doctors is sweeter. This doesn't have anything to do with anything I've said previously, and it's not going to have anything to do with anything I say after I finish this. I'm just going to say, I think that circuses are like the Miss Americas of zoos. The prettiest ones get to walk in a circle, and sometimes there are dirt bikes. Hard pivot. I think that everyone has an opinion that they hold that is like kind of mean, but also 100% correct. All right, and everybody's is different. Like mine is, I think that severe allergies are hilarious, and you should make fun of people who have them. Because I think it's so funny that some people just get to eat all the food, but others eat a specific food and their body is like, that's it, that's the signal, hit the inflate and die button. And like, I'm severely allergic to peanuts, which, sidebar, if you needed any more evidence that I talked to 0 women, there it is for you. All right, I do improv, I collect vinyls, and I'm allergic to peanuts. Like, I might as well just be allergic to women at this point, you know? But those of you with allergies, you guys know that those of us with severe ones, we go to the hospital all the time. Like the last time I went to the hospital was a couple years ago, when a group of my friends and we went to Zorba's. And my friend ordered the Thailand Delight Pizza. And I didn't know what that was, but I did know that when it came out of the kitchen, it didn't have any noodles on top of it, so I was out of ideas. And my friend was like, "You should try this." And I'm like, "What's on it?" And he's like, "You just try it." And in my head, I think to myself, there's no way they put peanut butter on pizza. Which I now know was a stupid thought. Just like I was in that scenario. A stupid thought. Anyways, so I take a bite of this pizza, and it is the worst goddamn pizza I've ever had in my entire life, but I swallow it out of spite. So I swallow it, and I'm like, "What the hell was on that?" And he was like, "All right, do you have any allergies?" And in my brain I go, "Uh-oh." And he's like, "It's peanut butter." And I'm like, "Well, somebody needs to call the ambulance for me. And somebody else needs to call the police on him, because that was an assassination attempt." So I went to the hospital, right? And fun fact, if you've ever wanted to try psychedelics but don't want to commit a crime, just have an allergic reaction severe enough that sends you to the hospital, because they'll shoot you up with way more Benadryl than should ever be in a human's body. And Benadryl is a drug that basically just says you can't have allergies if you're dead, and then puts you in the best sleep you'll ever have. All right, but on the way out to that sleep, you're going to see some things that aren't quite real. For example, my doctor's head turned into a spider. And all my high-ass brain could think was, "I've never seen a spider in medical school." you're a fraud. But as I said, I recently had my birthday and I went home to visit my family, which was nice, which was wonderful. I love them dearly. But it was just my immediate family. Because I don't get to see my extended family very often. They're kind of just all over the place. In fact, the last time I got to see a member of my extended family was all the way back on New Year's, right? When an uncle of mine came back from New York City to visit us. And when I say that he's from New York City, I mean he is the exact stereotype that all of you North Dakotans have in your brain of a New Yorker. For example, his name is Vinnie. He owns a pizzeria. He lives in the kitchen of said pizzeria. He calls that thrifty, I call that homeless. But Vinnie, I've never really liked talking to Vinnie, because Vinnie is a hardcore drug addict. And when I say drugs, I mean like the good shit. Like I do drugs. Vinnie commits crimes. There was one time several years ago where Vinnie tried to sue the TV channel AMC for the creation of the show Breaking Bad. Because in his words, they used his image in the creation of the character Heisenberg. And I had to remind him, Vinnie, Heisenberg makes meth in an RV and is generally successful in that endeavor. And you make meth in an industrial dishwasher that you stole. And you smoke more of your meth than you sell. But so Vinnie was at my house, And I didn't want to talk to him, so I was trying to avoid him. I was on my couch on my phone. But he finds me and he comes up to me and he claps me on the shoulder. And I look up at him. And some context about Vinnie. Vinnie and I are very similar heights, but he is much skinnier than I am. Like 130 pounds maximum. Right? And he always talks like he's actively in an audition for The Godfather, which would be intimidating if he didn't have a lisp. So he claps me on the shoulder and he's like, "Thun." Then you'll never know who you are until you know who you're supposed to be. And I look up at him and I'm like, "Why are you wearing my pants? You came here in cargo shorts. Those are distinctively neither of those. What the hell is going on here, Vinnie?" And he looks at me and he goes, and he walks into the kitchen. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Did Vinnie just say a sentence to me that was like actually cohesive? That's the first time in over a decade. Like, I didn't understand what it meant, but I knew each of the individual words, which is a start. Like, prison must have really changed Vinnie this time, and my thought is interrupted. My thought is interrupted by a very loud and very boisterous, "Yeah, well, I bet you still think birds are real, huh?" from the kitchen, and I'm like, that's the Vinnie I know. There he is. Because fun fact about Vinnie, Vinnie is a conspiracy theorist. Which only gets funnier when you realize that he can't pronounce that. Conspiracy theorist. So ladies and gentlemen, that used to be where that joke ended. Until a couple months ago, I got a phone call from my mother. And I picked up the phone, I was like, "Hello?" And she tells me, "Vinnie is back in jail." And I'm like, "Why? Why is he back in jail?" And she says, "You're going to want to sit down for this one." Ladies and gentlemen, I have never been more excited to hear next sentence in my entire goddamn life. All right? She says to me, "Well, very soon after leaving our house on New Year's Day, he got back to New York, and very soon after that, on January 6th, he made his way down to the Capitol and participated in the riots there. And they caught his dumb ass on camera." And she sends me the photo of Vinnie at the riots, and this rat bastard was still wearing my pants. What kind of you have to attend an insurrection in not your clothes. All right, and I don't even want them back now. All right, because I'm not going to wear clothes that have attended more insurrections than I have. All right, that's not going to happen. But the funniest part of this whole story is that because Vinnie traveled to commit this crime, he's in a different jail now. And this new jail is requiring its inmates to get vaccinated. Which Vinnie also can't pronounce. Vaccinated. You guys have a good rest of your night.
On behalf of Matt, the comedians, and myself, we wish you a good night. Stay safe, friends.